Video. Glad you guys are here. Now, before we get to the video, like I said many times, I got to give you guys a couple of things that you need to do before, you don't do them. What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking some Detroit Lions, obviously, like usual, some Matt Patricia, some Lions for 2020, and just a lot of thoughts. This is just a really good, deep discussion type of video that is really interesting. I love doing these. You need these videos. You guys get in the comments. You guys can interact. I'll interact with your comments. You know, it's just these type of videos which are really good just for talking, you know, sitting down, just having a good Lions discussion. So I like having these videos here and there. You know, it's great to look at Lions news, breaking news, players you drafted and specifics and stuff like that. But it also is good sometimes to just talk about the Lions a little bit, because at the end of the day, there's Detroit Lions talk at the end of our titles, and it's there for a reason. Now, I don't know what I'm going to title this video, but I'm talking way too long, so let's get into the intro. Let's get it started. Okay, everybody, now before we get into the video, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. On July 4th, big things are coming, and I've said this many times, and I think some people are taking it lightly. Like, they think big thing. Like, what are you thinking when you think of a big thing, right? Do you guys think of something that's like this big? I'm talking big things are coming on July 4th, and you guys are going to be part of it. So if you guys want to be involved, go follow Fan to Fan Network on Twitch. I will put the link in the description, and you can also go follow them on Instagram if you want to. But I'm telling you guys, big things. And when I mean big things, I mean big things. I mean tons of people getting involved. Every NFL team getting involved. I mean, you guys are going to love this. This is for fans. Fan to fan. It's for you guys. So I think you guys are going to absolutely love this when it takes off July 4th. Big things. I mean, takeover type of things. I'm going to run the trailer, but you guys are going to be a part of it. So get a head start now. Follow those accounts. Don't miss out. Here's the trailer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that little trailer. Now let's get into what we're talking about today. So today we're just having a simple Lions discussion. And, you know, I was working on different videos and different video ideas. And honestly, I made a lot of notes that I'm probably not even going to use in this video. Like, for example, I did a whole page, you know, I was talking about rosters and NFC North rosters and schemes, and I talked about percentages and numbers and all the stats and everything. And we do that all the time. And I think while those videos are great and they do give a lot of information, sometimes I just need to step away and just talk some Lions. And I was looking at Matt Patricia videos and, you know, defensive schemes. And I was watching how the Vikings played last year, watching film, and it was just crazy, and I'm losing my mind, and that's why it's so late right now when this video is coming out. And all of a sudden, I come across this video, Matt Patricia's defensive clinic. Now, I believe I've seen the beginning of this before, but I'm watching this video, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I've seen this. Turns out I watched the whole thing. It's an hour and 10 minutes. I ended up watching the entire video, and I was like, okay, wow, I wasted a lot of time here, but it was a pretty interesting video, and it really got me thinking. It got my brain moving. I remember watching it to the very end. Like, I was like, oh, snap, this video just ended. It's restarting. I watched the whole thing. But anyways, got me thinking a lot. Got me thinking about a lot of different things. And, you know, I think we get caught up a lot in the scheme and stuff like that. And while numbers and scheme and everything's important, I also sometimes need to remind myself that scheme isn't everything, because it's really not. I mean, scheme's cool. It's cool to know that stuff. And, you know, what could be successful against others? Like, do we match up well against a certain team? And that'll be important during the year. But I think I also have to take a step back and remind myself that you can win with any scheme. So while it's important, it's not the only thing we should be focusing on and saying, well, they don't have the right scheme to win football games. Maybe so far we haven't seen them win football games. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't with what they're doing defensively. It just means that you haven't yet, and whatever the reasons may be. I mean, we've seen every scheme in the NFL work. We've seen it by every team. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. They just took off, right? The 49ers are not doing what we do defensively. Not exactly. Maybe some similar things, but not exactly. A lot of times they run 4 defensive linemen. Why? Because they have one of the best defensive lines in the league, right? They built that. They build it that way. When you look at the Lions, they're not drafting defensive linemen in the first round. Like, when have they done that with Bob Quinn, right? They don't do that. Other than Ashawn Robinson, who was in the second round, they don't take defensive linemen high. So that's not something that we're going to see with the Lions if it's a different scheme. And Ashawn Robinson wasn't even when Matt Patricia was here yet. So it's completely different. So we also got to keep in mind that it's not necessarily just about scheme. It's deeper than that. And when I'm watching them talk about fundamentals, you know, how they do things in practice, I really encourage you to go check out this video if you have not. It's kind of long. It's like a movie, but it's really interesting. And, you know, I'm watching them show practice clips, and I'm really thinking of certain guys, right? Certain guys are coming to my head because I've watched a lot of film on players in games from the Lions. Justin Coleman keeps coming to my head because I'm like, man, Justin Coleman does a lot of this thing he's teaching. And it's all these players that I feel like are with the system. You know, maybe either former Patriots or guys we brought in recently, or guys that I seeing being here long term, or maybe rookies. I see a lot of these things that he's talking about, he's trying to implement. And then when you look at the players that are necessarily gone, you see a lot of things that maybe Matt Patricia doesn't necessarily bring up a lot, which is really interesting to see. That stuff's just cool on its own. And it comes when you watch a lot of the games, I guess. But anyways, that's cool enough. So I'm thinking of that. And while I'm making these notes, I come to the point where I'm just like, you know what? why don't I just look at the roster real quick? Because I'm really curious to see what the roster even looks like. Like, Matt Patricia came here in 2018, his first offseason. So how many players from 2017 or right before Matt Patricia came in are still on this Lions team? How much of a turnover has there been on this defense? And when you look at the results, it's actually shocking. I believe I did this last year with Bob Quinn, but that's different because Matt Patricia came here in 2018. So you can't look at all those years because it was a completely different strategy with Jim Caldwell and then, you know, Matt Patricia. So you had to change up the ways that you did things and the ways that you drafted and however you signed players. But when you looked at the Lions roster, just get this. This is really cool. Look at the defensive line first, okay? So this is our defensive line for 2020. We don't know who's going to make the team and everything like that, but just look at the players. Trey Flowers, Danny Shelton, Deshaun Hand, Nick Williams, John Pennicini, Jayshon Cornell, Austin Bryant, and Romeo Okwara. Okay, cool names. How many of those players were here before Matt Patricia came here? Not one player. Actually, Deshaun Hand was drafted in 2018, Matt Patricia's first draft. Two of those guys are former Patriots. How about the linebacker position? Jelani Tabai, Jamie Collins, Reggie Ragland, Jared Davis, Christian Jones, Elijah Lee, and Julian Okwara. How many of those players were here before 2018? One. Jared Davis, who was our first round pick in 2017, I believe. So, one player. Okay, one player out of defensive line and linebacker. How about cornerbacks? You have Desmond Trufant, Jeffrey Okudah, Justin Coleman, Amani Oruwariye, Daryl Roberts, obviously some other guys, Michael Ford. How many of those guys were here before 2018 or before Matt Patricia took over as their head coach? None. Michael Ford was actually signed in 2018. How about the safety? Duron Harmon, Tracy Walker, Will Harris, Jaron Kearse, Miles Killebrew, and a whole bunch of undrafted free agents. How many of those players? Miles Killebrew, the one player, Miles Killebrew. So out of all those positions, 2 players were here before 2000 and before Matt Patricia came in. And most of those guys were drafted in 2017. I believe Miles Killebrew was 2017. He might have been 16 though. I think he might have been 16 now that I'm thinking about it. Miles Killebrew might have been 2016. But either way, only 2 players, right? So that's really crazy to me that 2 players. And yeah, 2 players. And those guys, I don't know what their future's going to look like, right? We didn't pick up Jared Davis' 5th-year option. I don't think it would have made sense to. But again, he might not be here for the future. And Miles Killebrew, I have no idea. He's just a depth guy at this point, special teams kind of guy. And as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, you know, all the fundamentals, everything he talks about, and how when you look at the results, they really go off of what, you know, they preached in New England, right? Run stopping. You know, he talked a lot about special teams and kickoff coverage, which is wild because we're like that one team. It's like, wow, we keep signing these special teams type of guys. Why are we doing this? Well, that's something that he's really onto. He's about a tough team, a run stopping, being able to run the ball, and, you know, stopping kickoff returns. That was one of the points that he made. And he's just all about being tough and, you know, physical, and he loves his physical corners. He brought up Deion Sanders, how he's on TV, you know, talking about not having to tackle, and it's a business decision. And Matt Patricia's like, oh, it's a business decision to tackle so we can win the game. Like, he has just that kind of mindset going into things. And when I'm looking at this roster, that's how I'm looking at it. And then I start to look at, you know, how long Matt Patricia's been here and all this stuff we're putting on Matt Patricia for 2020. And I think we should have very high expectations every single year. That's what good teams do. But then also, again, I have to take a step back and kind of take the emotional side out of it. And even though you don't have to do this because you're fans, you don't have to. I try to a little bit just to kind of make my vision 2020 or whatever you want to call it, make it more clear to what I'm actually looking at. And when you look at it the year by year, you know, when we put a question up on the debate table and it was asked, okay, how many games does Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn have to win to keep their jobs? That was basically the question. Everybody was saying, you know, high numbers. Some people said make playoffs. Some people said 9 games. Someone said, I think, win a playoff game. And that's cool. I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, everybody should have their own opinion. And if you guys think the expectation should be higher, I'm down with that. I think Luke even thinks that your expectations should be up there for next year. And while I think this is a fair point, my answer was 7. My answer was 7 games. And I think it really does have a lot of factors, right? Is your defense improving, offense improving? It's a lot of factors that go into it, right? How many major injuries are there? Is Stafford hurt again? Like, what could happen? Not gonna let that don't happen. But anyways, you know, I'm looking at all this, and I came up with 7. It's a fair way to look at it. I think it's more, you got to make it more clear than that. I understand Jim Caldwell, you know, had us in the playoffs twice and everything like that. But for me to say that he needs to win a playoff game next year or he's gone, to me, that's just crazy. And the reason it's crazy is, 1, we've only done 1 time in 60 years. And 2, I just don't necessarily know if that's necessarily something fair to put on him. Because if you look at his first couple of years, they look a lot worse than I think they necessarily were. Right? Year 1, I can't even put year 1 against him. And I don't think we should put it against many coaches. I mean, unless they are destroying or sabotaging your team, it's really hard to look at year 1 and say, oh, you were bad in year 1. We might have to move you. Because if, you know, it's year 1. None of those guys are your guys. You're literally coaching players that you didn't bring in. So maybe it works. We've seen some your first-year coaches take off, and they're like, hey, I love these guys. And then sometimes it doesn't. And it's like, okay, I don't like exactly what's going on here. I'm changing things, and it's not working for the better. take 2 steps back to take 3 steps forward, whatever you want to call it. So year 1's kind of hard to really put anything against him. You look at year 2, and you had no Stafford. Now, for me, I got to throw this out there. For me, you're probably saying, well, hold up. You said during the season, we should be mad at Patricia. Our expectations should be higher. You're exactly right. I think they definitely should be higher. As a Lions fan in general, we should have high expectations. That way we can be successful. But I also believe we need to have optimism and faith going in every season. That's why I'm optimistic all the time. That's just how I do things. But when I look at this, I think it's one of those things that during the season, everyone's more emotional because we're fans. And I think it's okay to be. I am. I'll admit it. I've said at times, I didn't want Matt Patricia. I was mad at him. I made a video about Jim Caldwell, but like why we made a mistake there and everything. And then I have to take a step back. And even though I still think, Jim Caldwell could have been, whatever. No, let's not get into that. I have to take a step back. And when it hits the offseason, I'm not as emotional because nothing's going on right now, right? You're not emotionally, like during the season, you're just looking at the record and you're like, oh my gosh, like I just want to be a good team. And then you realize like, oh, we have 16 weeks of this. And, you're not a playoff team, whatever. But then when the offseason hits, you're able to take a step back and look at things differently and different things in a different light. And it can be very beneficial because for me, I'm able to take a step back and think, okay, I got to look at it differently. I don't have the same emotional thoughts that I did then where, oh my gosh, get this guy out of here. It's more I have to look at the years and understand that, okay, let's really look at this how it is. In year 2, you had no Matthew Stafford. And honestly, through the first 8 games, we all understand they were competitive. I mean, we've all seen the numbers. We've all seen the stats. This team was competitive, and not just competitive in a way where, they only lost by 2 scores. They were, like, legit competitive, and they beat some good teams. They were 3-4-1 before Stafford went down. Everybody brings that up. Oh, well, that wouldn't have been great. But I think I ran the numbers, and if Matthew Stafford would have been healthy, he would have won, like, 8 games that season, which is definitely an improvement. But even aside from that, you won 3 games. And you were 3-4-1, but look at the games you played in, right? Week 1, Arizona. You easily could have won that game, but you didn't, right? At the end of the day, you didn't win the game. Chargers, you beat them. You beat the Eagles, who were a playoff. You were a playoff team. You won 3 games to beat a playoff team. How? The Chiefs, you easily could have won that game. Either way, they were competitive in the first half of the season. And it was a lot better until, second half. And I think I also have to sometimes, realize that, yes, he's a defensive-minded coach, but he also has to have some of the, you also have to give him some love for what he's done with the offense. Because you have to understand, he is the head coach at the end of the day, right? He's in charge of everything. So for the offensive side of the ball, I have to look at it and say, well, hold up. I can't just say, well, he's bad because the defense is trash. I have to also understand that he's the reason that Darrell Bevell is now here, right? Him and Bob Quinn together is the reason Darrell Bevell's here. 2018, we had Jim Bob Cooter. So for me to look at 2018, I brought it up before, we all know it. 2018, we had a pretty darn good defense, but our offense was trash. In 2019, they addressed that. They brought in Darrell Bevell, which fixed their offense instantly. It fixed our offense instantly. But we got to give Matt Patricia some credit for that, right? He was part of that. Yes, he's a defensive mind, but he still helped fix the offense. All right, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Either way, he brought him in, and it fixed the offense. So he made the right decision to do that, okay? So, I mean, that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal that you're able to fix the offense. And if it was just about having a good defense because he's a defensive mind and he won't get fired, he could just draft all defensive players. But he doesn't. He drafts both sides because you need both to be successful, and he's got to play to his strengths, which could be the offense, and he may understand that. And I got to look at those first 2 seasons and understand, okay, year 1, I can't really, then year 2, Stafford goes down half the year. What happens in year 3? That happens again. So in year 3, my expectations aren't necessarily, oh, you got to go win a playoff game or you're gone, my guy. But maybe during the season, I'm talking like that. But still, right now, when my mind is clear and I'm able to look at things clearly, I'm thinking to myself, if I see improvement across the board, better defense or whatever, like this is a year for Matt Patricia. We just talked about the turnover, right? We've seen the turnover between the roster. All of these guys, how I look at it, are his guys, right? This is what he wants. All these new coaches in, Darrell Bevell's new offensive coordinator, all these new assistant coaches, all these new trainers, all these new players, former Patriots in every positional group. Yes, you have a short offseason, but I mean, these are your guys. You now have the players, the foundation that you want to build. And if you look at it, the foundation looks pretty good. I mean, you got a lot of young players at certain positions, and it looks like, you're financially set up for the future as well. And in year 3, I don't necessarily have the expectation that we need to win a playoff game to keep his job, but that's my hope and my optimism, and I believe we will make the playoffs. I believe we're going to make the playoffs 2020. Like, that's not even me just being hopeful. That's like my full belief. Like, I think we will make the playoffs. Like, without a doubt, I have 100% confidence we're making the playoffs. And we may not, but I have confidence we will. I think we will make the playoffs in 2020. I think they're that good this year, and I like their roster and how they build everything. And with Matt Patricia, having his guys, when you watch last season, I'm going back and watching, I'm seeing Rashawn Melvin, I'm seeing Darius Slay take unnecessary risks trying to jump on passes, and I'm like, that's not how Matt Patricia does his thing, and that's why these plays are open. You see Rashawn Melvin struggling man-to-man. Sure, he was a great player for a year. He probably shouldn't have ever been a starting cornerback for us. And now this year, those positions that you need to upgrade, you finally upgraded with guys that you believe in that can take you to the next level. You got talent, man. You got talent on both sides of the ball. So for me, it's not just a win-loss record. I want to see improvements across the board, but I do like, what the Lions have done. And I don't know. that's just kind of my thoughts on Matt Patricia right now. You know, I have a lot of faith in Matt Patricia. I've loved what I've seen, and I really haven't dived into a coach like I've dived into Matt Patricia. Like, I've really looked at what Matt Patricia's done, what his history looks like, how he coaches things, how they play, and I've watched so many games. I didn't do this with Jim Caldwell. I wasn't doing a YouTube channel with Jim Caldwell like this, and I'll probably do this for future coaches as well. I don't know, but I do like what Matt Patricia has and what he's bringing, and I think we're going to be successful with Matt Patricia. And I'm buying into it. I'll probably buy into whoever coaches, but while he's here, I'm going to believe him because he's here. He's the guy for now. He's the coach of the Lions. I'm buying into it, right? He's the guy. So I think we got to rock with him and stick behind him, and I think he's going to get it done. You know, I think he's going to be successful, but for me, man, that's just kind of my expectations, right? I understand we want to be successful, and our expectations should be higher than 5 wins or whatever, because, you know, it does hurt when we don't get a lot of respect. But at the same time, I also have to look back and understand it takes time for things to grow and build. And even though that's boring and that's annoying, and I think year 3 could be the year it starts to take off because we've seen it at times, you also have to understand, like, hey, look at the other years, right? Year 1, can we really say that's his fault that maybe we weren't good? You had Jim Bob Cooter. What is he going to do about that? Because think about it. What if Darrell Bevell was here when he came in? They could have been a playoff team year 1. All of a sudden, we're looking at everything differently. What if in year 2, Matt Stafford doesn't get hurt? And even though the defense isn't great, maybe it picks it up second half of the year. Maybe, you know, what if Matt Stafford doesn't get hurt? And even if the defense still isn't great, we win 7 or 8 games. That still looks different than 3. 3 really hurts. And that could be a blessing in disguise that you only won 3 games. That Matthew Stafford did go down, knock on wood, because, you know, you never want to see people get hurt. But, you know, because it allows you a 3rd pick, and it also could have potentially brought out, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but it could have brought out, you know, thoughts that and emotions that you didn't necessarily know were there of guys like Quandre Diggs and Darius Slay. And maybe that, you know, kind of propelled the moves to move on from those guys. Maybe that brought out something that they didn't like. I don't know exactly what happened, right? We don't know exactly. Everybody says their own things. That even if, you know, you have a worse player at those positions, Darius Slay's going to thrive in a different field, right? I think he could thrive with the Eagles, right? He might love it there. Same thing with Quandre Diggs. I think that's why he was great with Seattle. Certain players fit certain teams, and I think Desmond Trufant, Jeffrey Okudah, they're going to thrive in Detroit because that's the kind of player that Matt Patricia brought in. He's never going to draft a greedy. I'm watching what he's saying. He would have never drafted Greedy Williams. But this is the kind of guy that will draft a Jeffrey Okudah, okay? This is the kind of guy that will be successful in this Patriots defense. So I'm buying in. You know, that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you, for watching. I'm going to end it here, and I'm out.